Yeah, but actually you can put the potatoes.
I don't think we're foodies. I think we're more like food fans. You know, at parties, I'm always the one who's hovering over the snack table. And even when I was a kid, I remember going to my friends' houses and just like opening their fridge and taking food out of there.
As a kid, I had a problem with rationing than anything. You can see that even though I've got my own candy, I'm looking at his going, that'd be nice. My mom thinks I'm looking at my brother or admiring my brother, but I know for sure that I'm admiring his candy in this photo. I've read a couple news articles now that we're wasting 40% of our food. My question is, if that much food is being wasted, how much of it is still good, and can I eat it?
I was looking at various metrics for sustainable agriculture in the fruit and vegetable industry, and I started coming across these numbers about how much was being wasted. And here we were trying to get farmers to be just a little bit more efficient with their water, just a little bit more efficient with their fertilizer use. And yet, on the other hand, 40% of the food was not actually being eaten. And I just thought, how is nobody talking about this?
So 40% of everything raised or grown is not, in fact, eaten. And then globally, about 1/3 of all the food produced is not consumed.
It's very scattered throughout the system, and it makes it hard to point a finger, and it also makes it hard to see.
If we're wasting 1/3 of the world's food supply, and we need to increase food availability where it's needed, cutting food waste is one really quite simple place to start.
Tomorrow we start living off discarded food. So tonight, for our last supper, we're having all you can eat.
It's appropriate to eat here because it says wasted food subject to extra charge.
Okay, so anything expired or already wasted.
Yeah.
Where are we gonna go?
Oh my goodness, if I forget my lunch, do I have to go like dumpster diving on my lunch break? That's not cool.
You won't forget your lunch. Just picture your boss seeing you. Jenny? Is everything okay?
Oh no, where are we gonna go?
We're super lucky. My brother's moving. He's clearing out his fridge, and it looks like we're getting our first food score.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Why were you guys eating this over the last couple of days?
Because we've been in the parents. We're going to take some of it.
Oh yeah, you should take most of it.
No, we'll just take what you think you're not going to want.
Okay. Probably won't have it. You have it. That will keep... No.
Really?
Yes. No.
Like, are you sure?
Yes. It's been there forever. The sour cream we don't want. You can have that. I hate this. Don't want that. That's probably done. Potato salad, garbage. Black beans from the other day. Do you want those?
You want to keep it
Oh, and a nice red onion. This one's fine. You can have that one. Want some cream? It's either chili or spaghetti sauce. Chili? We'll probably take this one. Look at all this. Thanks for shopping at Nickelodeon's fridge. When you go shopping and you're busy, you forget what you have. It's a chore, right? You have to go back in your fridge, find what you have, and then figure out what you need to make a meal off that and go shopping. And the reality is you're out shopping and busy and you're like, what should we have for dinner? Let's get this. Fill it up, right? And you just keep piling up this collection of stuff in the fridge. Some of it's like, I don't want that. Do I really want leftovers from last night? Nothing wrong with the food. Probably gonna taste okay, but I had it last night, and so I have to have it again tonight. But we've got enough money to buy a whole brand new meal, right? So that's part of it, is just a wealthy society.
Stick.
Not bad. This is a small one. That's good. And it would have been, it's usually like a full Santa bag. So good job, guys.
We fill our refrigerators to the point that we couldn't possibly use everything before it goes bad. There was a study in New York. They looked at all the food waste in one county, and the most waste came from households. More than from restaurants, more than from supermarkets, more than from farms.
In our households, we're wasting somewhere between 15 and 25% of the food that we're buying. You know, that's expensive. I mean, imagine walking out of a grocery store with 4 bags of groceries, dropping one in the parking lot, and just not bothering to pick it up. And that's essentially what we're doing in our homes today.
Thank you. Have a good day.
What do you have for calls right now?
So this.
Okay.
So this one, I knew it wouldn't spell when I put it out, right? It has this little bulb because it rained hard. So they get an abnormal formation when it rains. And I knew it wouldn't sell, like as soon as I put it out. I should have just composted it right there. That's what I'm going to give it to you. You guys can totally take all this and take all the chard.
Well, you'll use one, right?
No, I won't. Like I can't use any of this stuff for the weekend.
This is a lot. This is a lot of greens. Okay, let's stop.
And then what you want?
I'm gonna give you $10.
Sure. That's probably too much. My wife and I operate Ice Cap Organics. We're a market garden farm. We sell mostly to farmers markets and a local CSA. We've been doing it for 5 years. We're all vegetables, and that's what we do for a living.
Hey dude, how's it going?
Good, man.
We're on Thursday.
Well, let's ham it. If this was what I had, and there was an hour left in the market, that one bunch of chard would sit there and no one would buy it. But if I had 30 bunches of chard all like bursting out, I'd probably sell like 25 of those bunches of chard. So what does that say? Like, people are totally impulse shopping and they think if there's one left that there's something wrong with it. People are always looking a lot for value and for aesthetic appeal. And I think a lot of it has to do with people just kind of assuming that what looks better tastes better. The farmers market has more people that are open to trying things that look different, and that's kind of nice. But still, overall, there can be a lot of a good crop at a market that won't get sold if it has just a slight blemish or something's wrong with it aesthetically.
Not every apple grows perfectly red and perfectly round on a tree. And so when we expect that going into the store, we're driving waste up the system. Stores are very careful to have their produce sections look beautiful, and they don't want to kind of ruin their image by having something like a bargain shelf or products that don't look perfect.
I went to a banana plantation, and after one day of harvest on a single plantation, there was a truckload of bananas being wasted. And those were being wasted solely on the basis of cosmetic standards. The banana plantation was growing bananas for European supermarkets. Supermarkets tell you what diameter, length, curvature, all of those parameters have to be exactly right for that supermarket, so the bananas basically look the same. It is deeply shocking when you see mountains, concentrated mountains of food being wasted. It's something that every time I see, I still get shocked by it.
We're a very large operation for our commodity, which are peaches, plums, and nectarines. To put it in perspective, I probably produce for peaches about 1/3 as many peaches as the state of Georgia does.
We have ladies grading the fruit. They're graders, but they sort out the fruit that is not going to go into a box. You know, they're looking for scars like this, that you and I could cut that off right there and eat it, but unfortunately they don't want it in a box. A lot of it's about appearance. This is edible, but it's not edible to the supermarkets.
They have state standards, they have, you know, the USDA or federal state standards for product, but the retailer standards far exceed that which is placed on us by the state. The amount of fruit that's left either in the field or as discarded after it gets in the packing house, I've seen it as high as 70%. The least I've seen is 20% that gets thrown away for a lot of times no reason that a consumer would think would be practical.
I'll call up the food bay bank and say, hey, I can get you an extra load this week, because we're throwing away perfectly good fruit with nothing wrong with it. There's just no market for it.
We donate a lot of fruit to the Northern California Food Bank, but they do not have the capacity or the infrastructure to manage the amount of fruit that we could possibly give them. A jam and jelly company will take a little bit of it, but there is so much of it that gets thrown away.
As a grower, that's heartbreaking. When you grow the fruit and there's nothing wrong with it and you can't sell it, that bothers me.
So here's a whole celery plant. So on the heart machine will cut the heart to length, more or less like that. And then the crews will drop that. And there's your heart. Look at all this. We have to peel a certain amount of stalks off so they can fit in the bag. You know, you saw me, that's 1 square foot. And I got probably 2 pounds of product right there. You know, with a little bit of peanut butter and some raisins, you got ants on a log, right? But they're perfectly good stalks. None of us are fans of the waste that we get, you know, because obviously there's a lot of good stuff here you could dice up, put in soups, and we've tried. It just didn't even pay for the labor that it costs to pick it up. So obviously it wasn't feasible.
We have this culture of abundance. Part of being a good host is having more than plenty of food available for someone.
If you've ever been in that situation where you've had people over and completely run out of food at the end of the meal, there's this odd sense that you have failed as a host.
Basic general rule of thumb when you're a chef and you're working in a kitchen, don't ever run out of food, ever. Some guests really like that bountiful plentifulness of a buffet. Whereas we have guests that come and stay at our hotel and dine with us quite frequently that tell us not to have a lot of food. They want us to be very selective in what we're putting out and making sure that we're managing the food because they don't want to see that waste.
Part of my job at work is to organize events, and we always have catering, and I've become so conscious of the food waste. And we had this event today, it was so frustrating. We were working with another organization, and it was a big event. There's like 200 people. Usually we order 75% of what there's going to be. But they were so paranoid about not having enough food. Like they said that would be the most embarrassing thing possible if we didn't have enough food. And I felt so peer pressured. We ended up ordering food for 190 people when we thought we would have 200. And we had an unbelievable amount of leftovers. She actually even used the analogy when we were discussing this. She was like, it's like when you serve someone at your house. If you had just enough food, that would be really embarrassing. And I was like, but I don't think that would be embarrassing. I think that would be awesome.
Things are going to get harder now because I just realized we're running lower on oil, cooking oil. We've still got some flour, we're out of sugar. We're out of honey, any sort of sweetener.
I'm fatigued with this project. I don't really want to do it anymore. It's not that fun.
Well, the point of the project is not about maintaining a certain happiness or comfort level. It's about proving that there's food being thrown away.
Yeah, but...
This is not a lifestyle that I want to continue.
Well, neither do I, so let's stop.
I don't want to stop because we haven't proved anything yet.
1 month, 3 months, 6 months, like, okay, so it's more impressive that if you do it for 10 years. Why don't we just do it for 10 years then? Because it's ridiculous.
See what's here. $1.99. This is organic here. You know. So last time I came to this place, I was in there and I was rooting around the bin, and the owner was closing up, I guess, and threw some garbage on top of me. And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I was like, "Oh," like I was so, that was like the lowest of the low.
You never told me that.
I know. I just felt really embarrassed that I was like in his bin, and then he felt like really sad for me, probably like, "Oh, I just threw garbage on a bum." That's the lowest point. You know what? I didn't even get anything good that night either.
To me, it's sort of funny that wasting food is not taboo. Right? It's one of the last things you can do, one of the last environmental ills that you can just get away with. You know, if you were walking down the street and had a can of soda, you couldn't find a trash can, you're just gonna throw it on the ground. I mean, that is the ultimate sin in many places, littering, and you could actually be fined for doing that. Same thing with not recycling. That's something that in many places could get you in trouble, but throwing away food is perfectly fine. Wasting food is not only widespread, but it's condoned. So the last time we were asked to not waste food was during World War II, and there was this sense that we had to sacrifice for the good of the country, for the war effort.
Now here we have an ordinary loaf of homemade bread. Watch closely.
Imagine that, a whole loaf of bread disappearing before our very eyes.
Watch this. There, madam, is the amount of bread that you cause to disappear every week.
You must be crazy. There isn't that much bread in the world.
There's that much less bread in the world every week through household waste. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is a horrifying fact that waste.
And there were posters like, "Food is a weapon, don't waste it," and all sorts of other propaganda to really encourage the public not to waste food.
And since that time, it's been the opposite.
Food really became more plentiful. All of a sudden, we did start to see much more abundant and cheaper food.
Our notion of what's a reasonable amount of food to eat has changed. This idea of larger portions is seeping into our households, and now we're serving our friends and families too much food. The joy of cooking is that venerable cookbook that's been around for ages, and many of the recipes have stayed the same, but the number of people that it serves has changed. And so you'll have the same recipe from 20 or 30 years ago, and in the current version, it's only feeding 2 people instead of 4. Or maybe it's 4 people instead of 6.
The average cookie has quadrupled in calories since the mid-'80s, and we're looking at larger portions in almost everything we're eating.
It happens all the time at restaurants, where we're often given so much food that we can either overeat or waste food. And in some cases, you can actually do both.
My granddad never wasted anything. He obviously grew up through that time where people were more conservative through World War II or whatnot. And we used to kind of laugh behind his back because he would always reuse his tea bag. I swear that he would use it for days on end. And at the time I thought that was really, I thought that was ridiculous, like, get a new tea bag. And he was pretty much like that with everything. If he had any leftovers, even if it was like 2 spoonfuls left and he couldn't finish it, he would put that in the container in the fridge. And he would eat it, you know, he wasn't just putting his leftovers in the fridge and leaving them there, he would finish them. What I used to think was funny about what he did, I now find it sort of inspiring. we've had almost no luck finding food behind grocery stores. They're almost always locked bins or they're compactors.
Everything's locked.
Now we've been looking a little bit further up the supply chain in wholesale areas, a little further out of the city. Holy cow. There's so much granola. Lots of salsa.
Hurry up.
Fudge walnut treat. I think it's fascinating. I'm starting to enjoy this. I've seen people do this in videos and I've seen photos and stuff, but I didn't actually believe that this is how much one could find. I thought we were going to be struggling. Hi, Mom.
So you're not starving by the sound
We're
of
not
it?
starving. It's always a lot of one or two things, and we never sort of have a variety.
Let's see, I can put this in the fridge and then we'll decide one. We're over here to see family, and I don't want to spend my whole time like driving around looking for food. It's ridiculous.
We're not spending the whole time.
And the other thing is, your mom just asked us to pick up 2 liters of milk, so I'm going to pick up 2 liters of milk for her.
Yeah, it's for her. We're not having any of this.
We said that if we go over to someone's house, then we can eat their food so that we can alleviate that kind of stress of making everybody feel uncomfortable. But we didn't take into account, like, when we go away for an entire weekend, we can't just, like, go to someone's house and then just eat everything they have. We can't drive around a strange city and try to find some food. I mean, we're trying to do it now, and it's not working out very well. No way there's even anything in there. Is there any way that I could look at the stuff you culled today and buy some of it?
Possibly. This is some of the salads that we pulled off.
Oh, that's great.
Today.
Sweet. Okay.
They're just dated, so we have to pull them off 3 days before.
Shall we get 2 salads?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
You're welcome.
That's cold. That's good.
Is that culled stuff?
Right there?
At the bottom of the rack?
We're not allowed to sell that stuff. No.
Why not?
It's policy. Because we're known for the highest quality.
Like, those bananas look totally good.
Just trying to do my job.
I know, no, you totally are. Can I buy those bananas?
Yeah, you want to buy the bananas? Sure.
Yeah. That looks perfect.
Those ones are okay.
Awesome. I'm not going to ask for a deal. I'd rather just not draw attention to it. And the food is perfectly good anyway.
Hi.
No, thank you.
I've got the turkey, but who's driving?
One's all right.
Oh, it's only 2 in my mountain.
It's for a pizza chain. Oh my god, look at it. Oh my god, it's a motherload. Okay, my buddy's working on a photo shoot for a pizza chain, and so they're shooting all these bits of food. Let's see what he said. Pre-cooked bags of bacon, chicken, sausages, mushrooms. Chicken. Okay, let's go.
What's going on? You go down there and to the left, keep going straight.
you're gonna find a green dumpster. So go and check out what it's got in store for you. I don't even know what your game is.
We're trying to survive off of food waste right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
100%.
you're gonna hit the jackpot pretty soon here. So it was in the fridge all weekend.
Oh, okay.
Food styling is really interesting because like anytime you see a picture of food in an ad or in a commercial, somebody has spent hours preparing it and making it look just right and choosing the right tomatoes and the right piece of meat and the right pepperoni to make it look really appetizing.
It's a lot of chicken. You want to take all of it?
Yeah, we'll put it in the freezer.
What are you going to do with this many bacon bits? It's gross. We don't even eat bacon.
Well, we'll add it to everything.
We don't have anywhere to put it. So like you get these tomatoes, they only have a couple days on them, and then you get some lettuce and it only has a couple days, and like everything in our fridge only has a couple days, and our whole fridge is full of stuff that like needs to be eaten tomorrow. Like I started making a list on the chalkboard of things that must be eaten the next day, and it's like way more food than we can possibly eat.
When we grow food, we start with the soil and some sunlight. The plants grow, we harvest the produce, we take it into the pack house, we'll sort the ones that fit the standards of the supermarkets that it's providing, and a lot of that food is wasted at that stage. Then through distribution, it will have to survive a long journey to wherever the shop is. It might sit on a shelf and some of the food might be wasted there.
And then the consumers come in, pick their favorites, and there's your winner, it makes it home, but who knows what happens to it then.
Inside and out, and going to take you apart. I put us back together at heart, baby. Don't you forget about me. As you walk on by, will you call my name? As you walk on by.
What we have failed is an entire system which is in itself already wasteful. And all of the embodied energy and the resources in that piece of food, all of that has been wasted, it's been in vain.
This is my favorite day of the project. I found some chocolate. And I found quite a bit of it.
Is it expired or something?
Not for a year.
What?
What if they were recalled? Microwave, barbecues. Not on the list. Not even expired. So if they weren't on the federal recall list and they're not past date, then I think they're thrown out because they don't have French writing on them, French labeling.
So at the beginning we had 4 eggs, 2 for Grant and 2 for me. And of course he ate his right away, but I've been rationing mine because I didn't know when we were gonna find eggs again. Like I'm saving them in case I need to bake something special. I've been going to the grocery store and looking in all the cartons trying to find the ones with the cracked eggs. Nobody wants to buy the cracked ones, so I'm willing to buy the ones that are imperfect, and I haven't found any yet though. But as of today, I'd say we don't have to ration anymore. Grant found tons of eggs in a wholesale dumpster, and they still have a few weeks on the date. Actually, I think we're gonna have the opposite problem now. Now we have so many eggs, it's like a race to eat the eggs. We've been putting them in a glass of water to make sure that they sink, because that means that the eggs are good to eat. But it's still a lot of eggs for 2 people.
Our farm and all the farms that are like ours, when we have a lot of stuff left over or if a crop doesn't work out, it's not such a big deal. It's a loss of time and money, but it's not waste as such because we still use it. We compost it and we actually put it back into the dirt and it's really valuable for us. It's to the point where we actually buy compost. Having compost on the farm is also really valuable. Zucchini is always a good example because it produces so much at its peak production time that in the shoulder seasons, it's barely keeping up to demand. And then once it really ramps up and starts producing the maximum amount, it triples the amount of demand. If we grew less zucchini, then we'd have less zucchini waste, but then we wouldn't be able to meet demand in the early summer and spring, and then in the later summer when things cool down. We sell right to the people that are eating the food. So there's actually very little opportunity for the food to go bad. We harvest on Friday, we sell it on Saturday. Well, it's gonna last for 2 weeks in your crisper. So you're gonna have a lot more opportunity to use that vegetable. It tends to be 14 to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week during the harvest season. Our harvest season is condensed in this part of the world, so we really have to go for it when things are yielding to put enough away for the winter to survive.
Abundance is the success story of the human species. You look back to the creation of agriculture 10, 12,000 years ago. That was all about creating surplus, creating more food than you need in any individual moment. That allows you to store food over the winter, it allows you to store food in case there's a bad harvest, it allows you to trade food, to have feasts, which is a really important part of human society. Those are all wonderful things. And in the past, if you had even more surplus than you could possibly use, maybe it didn't matter so much. The problem is now that all rich countries in the world, in North America and Northern Europe, have between 150 and 200% of the food that they actually need. People think that environmental problems are about smokestacks, about roads, about factories, about cities and concrete. And for sure, those are significant. But if you look at the earth from the sky, what you see is fields. And it is there that we have had the biggest impact. Wasting a third of the land and all of that energy that we currently use by wasting the food that we've produced is one of the most gratuitous aspects of human culture as it stands today. At the moment, we are trashing our land to grow food that no one eats.
I really see preventing food waste as a parallel to energy efficiency. If you think about both energy and food, they're resource-intensive industries facing an increase in demand as population grows and as the world population increases in affluence.
From an energy perspective, there's an estimate that about 4% of all US energy consumption is embedded in the food that we ultimately toss. So 4% of all the energy we're using is being thrown away. It's difficult to think of water as a precious commodity, especially for many people who don't live in desert or drought-ridden communities, but the water that's embedded in the food we throw out could meet the household needs of 500 million people.
One of the problems when food waste started being picked up by governments and they started doing studies on where food was being wasted and what kind of food was being wasted, it immediately became apparent that by tonnage, fruit and vegetables were being wasted the most. And so a lot of campaigning went into focusing on fruit and vegetable waste. And that's no bad thing. I mean, of course, we need to not chuck away a whole load of carrots just because they're not straight. But although the tonnages for meat and dairy products being wasted are much smaller, the resource use represented by that waste of meat and dairy products is far greater. You use vastly more land and other resources to produce your meat and dairy products than you do your vegetable products.
Just last night I was at a barbecue and there were all these extra hamburgers. For each one of those hamburgers, the water that went into producing it is equivalent to taking a 90-minute shower.
We have to use our land in a sensitive way to plan and to manage it in a way that ensures that people are fed and ensures the long-term health of the ecosystems that we depend on for our survival.
Okay, let's go. It's a lot different than I thought. I thought we would really be scrounging for food, but instead it's more like mass quantities of certain foods. Like the scale of the stuff that we've seen so far is pretty shocking, and I think we've only seen like the littlest bit.
been impossible to track how much we found. Often when we find a pile of food, we're just looking at the top few inches and it's 8 feet deep, so we don't even know what's down there. It's been challenging enough trying to log everything that we've actually taken. $225 grams, 2 limes, mandarin orange.
I've been trying to track how much food we find, and in the first month alone, we brought home $1,127 of food. And even though we were trying to pay for it, we only ended up spending $33. And then after that, it just kind of got out of control and I couldn't even monitor it anymore.
I'm just starting to lose the excitement of finding tons of food like this. But ultimately, it's the fact that what we're doing, it's not reducing the amount of waste. Somebody's losing money on this when it gets thrown out.
I mean, on the one hand, I'm happy because we found food and it's really exciting. And then on the other hand, I feel so guilty for even feeling excited because it's such a shame that so much food is going to waste. And it's really depressing, actually.
Highs and lows of the project, you know? Highs and lows. This is a high point.
I'm pretty sure that people think that we're eating food scraps, scrapings off people's plates or something. Because when I tell them about the project, I just get this weird look. I mean, if they could see the quality of the food that we find and the amount, we've been eating pretty well.
You're welcome to grocery shop at our house. Take what you need, we have too much.
Where'd you find this?
It's all in the dumpster, man.
It's all in the dumpster? Sweet. Sweet organic free range. Cheese, okay. Sure. Oh, looks good. Sweet. Are you sure you can part with all this, or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So none of this is open. It's like perfectly, there's nothing wrong with any of this. Cool. Cheers, man. Disking in food or plowing it under is certainly helpful to the soil. It gets the nutrients back to the soil and helps the soil become more fertile. But when you think about the resources that go into producing our food, if we're to rescue those foods and channel them to people who need it, that's a much better use of the resources and nutrients than just simply plowing it under.
Any day now, 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 any day.
Gleaning is the practice of going out into fields where there have been harvests already and recovering goods that otherwise would be plowed under. I go gleaning because it's a nice way to practice what I preach and to actually do something to recover food and get it to people who need it. It's a little more participatory and active than just writing books and giving talks. So we're headed to a sweet potato field. The Society of St. Andrew runs this gleaning outing, and they run most gleaning outings in this state. You guys want to stick around until 7 p.m. we can go to the turkey shoot. The Barbertown turkey shoot. I've heard good things.
Yeah, I've been good. I'm glad you could come this morning.
They're
perfectly good sweet potatoes, and we put them to very good use. And when we deliver them, they will literally be on somebody's table tonight. Oh, wow, that's great, which is kind of a cool thing.
Any day now, 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 any day. Any day now, 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 any day.
Now, the term gleaning dates back to the Old Testament, and it used to refer to the practice of the hungry folks going to the fields and picking what had been left behind. And many farmers would not harvest certain parts of the field. But obviously there have been some changes since that time, and now gleaning looks a little bit different, where it's essentially volunteers harvesting food for the hungry.
Any day now, 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 any day. Any day now, 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 any day.
There's a secondary motivation in that it's a whole lot of fun. It's really neat to get out into the fields and get your hands dirty and really play a role in our food system and also connect to where your food comes from.
Well, I work so hard, push my fingers too.
Oh, that's good. Where did they come from?
Just a farmer who wasn't going to use them, and he was nice enough to let volunteers come glean.
This is good for me. You got more?
Yeah.
They sure look good.
Before I started gleaning, I hadn't grown my own food. I didn't really know what a broccoli plant looked like. I didn't know what collard greens looked like in the field. And I certainly didn't know how hard it was to pick sweet potatoes.
I've gained 10 pounds. You can see it. There's definitely a curvature, an extra. I think it's a combination of more processed food, but also just stuffing myself when we've got copious amounts of one thing. You know, I don't even like yogurt. I think there's probably about maybe 9 or 10 yogurts in the fridge right now, this size, if not bigger. The race is not trying to find food, it's like trying to not waste it again.
But you don't have to take so much, that's the thing. You don't need to get 10 yogurts.
I can't see, it's just so disheartening knowing that if we don't take that food that's there right then, it's gone. It's going to the landfill next morning. So since the beginning of the project, Jen has been missing one food. That's Feta cheese. And the coolest thing is the best by date isn't from a year from now. Well, it's not cool that it's thrown out, but it's cool for Jen. It's a bit of a surprise. You can come in now. Do something.
What is it?
Open it up.
Oh, it's Feta cheese! Thank you. That's awesome. That's what I've been craving. doesn't expire until December next year. We have more than a year on it. Wow.
Enjoy.
I didn't know the Feta lasts that long. That's amazing.
About 60% of consumers are throwing food away prematurely because they don't understand what the dates are telling them.
It's been shown that 1 million tonnes just in the UK of food are wasted in people's homes because of date labels.
There's 2 buckets of dates out there. There's your sell-by dates that are really a communication between the manufacturer and the store saying, hey, if you sell this product by this date, I promise that when your consumer gets it home, it will still have a shelf life left.
That date shouldn't appear visibly. It should be encoded so that only staff understand it, because it confuses people. They say display until, they see a date, they think, ooh, can't eat it after that day.
Then there's this whole other bucket of dates which consumers are meant to see, and that's use by and best by, enjoy by and guaranteed fresh by. And those dates are indicators of quality and not safety.
There is no regulation that prevents them from selling it after the best before date, because there is no safety concern with that product.
I've talked to manufacturers of pies, for example, and their use by date isn't the date that they think that it's going to become dangerous in that scenario. They think it's the date that they think the pastry will stop being perfectly crisp.
They often create this sense that we can't possibly use an item 1 minute after midnight on the day of the stamp on the package. The only thing required by federal law in the US to have an expiration date label on it is infant formula.
Other than that, there's really no other food product that has a federal regulation.
Last night I went out looking for food in a place that I've gone a few times and found a few things, but I came around the corner and they had brought in a special dumpster, and it was the size of a small swimming pool, and it was completely filled with hummus. It's unlike anything we'd seen so far. And initially I thought, oh, it must have all gone bad, they're throwing it out. And when I looked at it, I had 3.5 weeks left on the best before date. I mean, I took 3 or 4 home, and you can only eat so much hummus. I mean, when we started the project, I expected to find some waste, and I really had prepared myself to see it. But when you're actually standing in front of something like that, it was totally different.
There's this misconception that simply throwing something away isn't a big deal because food is biodegradable. Yes, that's true. If you were to throw an apple core just out into the woods, it's not a big deal. The problem comes when all of that waste is aggregated and it decomposes without air in a landfill. That anaerobic condition is what creates methane, which is a greenhouse gas that's more than 20 times as potent as CO2 at trapping heat. So essentially we're creating climate change from our kitchen waste bins.
Putting food into landfill is just a huge waste of resources, nothing else. I mean, those are nutrients that we can be capturing and reusing.
So there's this hierarchy of uses for our food. Obviously, at the top would be feeding people. That might not be just feeding your family, maybe it's trying to donate food. And this applies to restaurants and supermarkets as well. If we can't feed people, then we should try to feed animals. Feeding livestock or chickens or whatever it may be, certainly an age-old solution to the scraps and food waste that we have on hand. If you can't do that, then creating energy from it is the next best thing. Then composting, get the resources back into the soil. Only if we can't do any of the above should we be landfilling or incinerating or sending our food to the wastewater treatment plant. In real life, it's flipped around, and the majority of our food waste does end up going to the landfill. In the US, it's about 97% of all the food waste that's created ends up in a landfill or an incinerator.
We need a robust system for ensuring that food waste can be recycled, can be fed to livestock and turned back into a resource that we can use.
Our city is built on access, everything. We realize it must be, though, to bring the people here. We are taking a source that most people would throw away, and we're feeding it to livestock, which naturally is making protein for humans. It's the best source for the food scraps. Humans are first. We're about 7 miles to the heart of Las Vegas. Pig farming is our way of life. I started working for the RC Farms in about 1969, and I was secretary for many, many years. And then I ended up being boss of RC Farms because I married Bob.
If you believe in your product, you ought to advertise it. Father and mother, they brought me up on a scrap feeding farm in San Diego. But then my dad found Las Vegas, and they had an abundant supply. Here is some of the food scraps. Food that you didn't eat, left over from your plate, we'll turn it back into a wholesome protein. We process to a boil. Just kill all pathogens. And the pigs love it. 30 tons a day. 1,000 tons a month. Some of it's never been touched. Look at all out through the pens are running. Our standard inventory now is around 2,500 swine on the ranch. You can hear them. Can you hear them eating? Can you hear them chomping? Yeah. See, that sounds like a nice brook over rocks to me. You know, it's beautiful.
He loves it, and I think it's just kind of in his blood. He would go out in 114-degree weather and been a hard worker all of his life. Never seen him slack at all.
Over here is bread, return bread. Cakes and so forth. Yeah, this would be every week.
We've had numerous offers to sell this property and offer us many millions of dollars and go off on cruises. That's not our lifestyle. We like our old farmhouse. We like our work. And he more than likely will die with his boots on feeding food scraps to pigs.
We've been saving all of this chocolate because we want to give it out to people. So at Halloween, we thought it was a perfect opportunity and we're going to hand it out to the kids. There's nothing wrong with it or anything. So we're going to give out these full-size chocolate bars. Like when I was a kid, that would have been the ultimate.
Oh, hey guys. Nice bar. Pick a bar.
Trick or treat.
These guys get big chocolate bars. You gotta come back.
Mama will share that one with you.
Happy Halloween, guys. kind of worried because I think people are going to think we're really rich or something. Thank goodness.
2 bars.
We're getting generous at this point in the night. More. 1 second, I gotta get more.
Holy smoky noise! Make it chunks of 4 bars.
You too. It was okay. But after all that build-up, and we're like, oh, we gotta save the chocolate for Halloween, and then we only got 19 kids. It's like the exact opposite of what you usually look for. I'm usually looking for the newest stuff. I don't even usually look at dates at all.
Oh, no, it's still good. This is all still good. No bread. Right, here we go. Do you have anything that's close dated or any calls?
No, we can't do that.
You can't?
No, it's a food health and safety issue.
It's a safety, you can't. Do you guys donate it then, or? You don't donate?
No.
So if...
It goes straight in the garbage can.
It goes straight in the garbage?
Yeah.
So
Can't do it because you get too many lawsuits.
There's too many lawsuits? Have you guys been sued before?
I don't know, to tell you the truth. It's
Oh,
not my
okay.
thing, but it's a health and safety issue. If it's close data, if it's like within 2 days, out the door goes.
What about any ugly vegetables?
Ugly vegetables, same thing. Calls they call them or whatever, same thing.
I don't know of a single instance where a company has been sued by somebody who has been the recipient of free donated food. So I think very often they're using the fear of being sued to cover their shame.
So in the US, anyone who wants to donate food can do so free of fear from being sued. There's a federal shield law called the Good Samaritan Act that protects people who give food that they deem to be in good shape. From my perspective, it's a completely unfounded fear.
I think that companies are morally responsible for ensuring that the food in their custody gets to people who need it and doesn't end up in the bin. And we, the public, have a responsibility to demand that that takes place.
I felt like I'd been reading about food waste, but I hadn't actually been doing anything about it. So I've been volunteering once a week at the Quest grocery store. If you're low income or you feel like you're in need, you can apply to shop at Quest. And they stock the whole store with donated food, so they can sell it at a really reasonable rate. And it's a really good bridge in between the food bank and the regular grocery store. It's great to see that there are grocery stores that donate. I used to be a cashier. I really liked it, actually. When I was in university, I was a cashier. No, it's good. It's like a nice break. Like at my job, I like sit in front of a computer, right? So it's a nice break to come here one afternoon a week and do something where I get to like move around and move boxes and like do something with my body, you know?
Quest saves roughly $4 million a year in food.
We only have a little peanut butter. Everywhere you look.
My name is Ken March. I'm a warehouse supervisor at Quest. Nobody can walk in off the street and shop at Quest. You have to be designated, because the goal is to help those in need and not those that have.
What we've got is things like coconut milk, cranberry sauce, candy, chocolate, spritzers, tomato basil soups, rice crackers, cereals, organic cereals, repack raisins, risotto, butter beans, sun-dried tomatoes. No, peanut butter, more peanut butter. If we didn't salvage this, all of this food would either end up in the landfill or be destroyed in some way.
I've worked in the trucking, warehousing, and packaging field for more than 30 years. You wouldn't want to know how much product we would dispose of. You imagine that there are warehouses that are 1 million square feet of food products. So if something happens to that product, whether it be dated, damaged, or whatever, the easiest, most convenient thing to do with it is dump it. And a large part of dumping is simple economics. I really like the concept of Quest. And it's something I never would have known. And all the years that I have turfed goods out the door, I wish I would have known. And that's a big thing. Knowing that you can get rid of stuff comfortably, people can use it.
What we need is to believe that wasting food is not acceptable. It comes down to citizen morals, it comes down to cultural attitudes, essentially.
There are all sorts of changes we can make in our own personal lives to just start chipping away at how much food we're wasting. First of all, use our freezers more. You can freeze almost anything, and it's a really great last-minute thing to do when you think you're not going to get around to eating something.
If you're someone who likes to just shop once a week, then it's really important to plan out meals and make a detailed shopping list and then really stick to that list in the store. Or it might make sense to have smaller, more frequent trips and just buy what you need.
I think we can start making dinner by thinking of what we have and less about what we're in the mood for.
It doesn't require a complete revolution in terms of the way we treat food. It's just tweaking it slightly, and usually in delicious ways.
So we're having 20 or so friends over tonight to celebrate the end of the project, and everything on the menu is rescued food.
I'm so excited to be near the end. And I bet we'll still eat a lot of the same food. I think I'll still try to buy food that's imperfect and look for those items that I think that other people wouldn't buy. Honestly, the best part about this project is that Grant took such an interest in the kitchen. So he used to look in the fridge and be like, there's nothing to eat, I'm gonna go out for sushi. And there'd still be tons of food in there, but it just had to be prepared, and he wasn't willing to do that. You're so happy.
I made a crumble. I've never made a crumble before. In the end of everything that I learned through this project, my new sense of value for food is what's going to stick with me the most.
He actually even made recently this little bin, and it says "Eat Me First" on it. We put all the food that's the leftovers and like the half onions and like things that need to be used first into that bin, and then he'll go there first and make a lunch out of that.
Thank you for coming and helping us finish off all this food that we needed to get rid of. And I guess this is the end.
Red Jenny and Dumpsters!
I definitely won't miss having to go and search for food. That's going to be great. But I'm probably going to still have a peek from time to time. I mean, how can you not?
automatically make a difference because you can't help it because all of a sudden you start to see it everywhere you go. Food waste we can handle. You know, it's something we can actually do something about. We can do something about it now.